green with radiation poisoning from the photocopier, then stick him in the furnace so he can respawn and get a new one. Do I have to think of everything? Really? It's logical. I don't know why I'm surrounded by such idiots. I really don't. Anyway, hello. Hello, how are you? So, I have a new play for you today. I have a new play, but I also have some huge news. Huge news. So, we're doing a play that I'm sure people have been wondering why we haven't done it so far. I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've been sitting there and you've been thinking, why, oh why, have you not done Othello? Because you're running out of plays. Yes, you were desperate enough to do the Henry VI. Yes, I know. We were. But this week we're doing Othello. But before we get there, remember, if you want to support us, yada, 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 shop, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill. Make sure you like it and subscribe it and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, there's that. Good. Now, back to my big news. Now, you have obviously been wondering why we haven't done Othello yet. Oh, I don't know. Could it be because the Milwaukee family players are really, really racist? And as soon as I suggested Othello, they got out boot polish? I think so. So I have been in very, very careful negotiations with Upstairs because there was no way in the world I was sitting through the Milwaukee family players doing Othello in blackface. No way. So I went upstairs and I asked them if we could borrow a black actor. For the love of God, please, could we borrow a black actor to play Othello? And so I put it to them. They were not, initially they were very skeptical about this because, you know, they said yours is a place of punishment. Everything down there is supposed to be bad. And I said, it is supposed to be, after Constantine messed everything up, a place of punishment for the dead, for the inmates. We are not the inmates. We are the gods of the dead. There are lots of us down here. And we're doing a very important job keeping, Grandfather Kronos and that big nasty thing that fell through our ceiling, scared the harpies, imprisoned down in Tartarus. We are the jailers. Jailers are not punished. They are not prisoners. And maybe if you continue to punish us, maybe we might just let Grandfather Kronos out. Do you think of that? That we are not here to have all the good things for us taken away, but that it is for the inmates to be punished, since you made us a realm of punishment rather than just a repository of the dead. Anyway, I also pointed out that as the Milwaukee family players are such racist, sexist, hideous monsters, being forced to perform with some genuinely good black actors would be a form of punishment too, as would being forced to learn new plays. And to my shock and surprise and delight, my wonderful, virtuous, wise sister cousin Athena ruled in my favour. I'm very well aware that because she ruled in my favour, she is wise and virtuous and just, and had she not, she would be the greatest villain who ever lived. But that's the way with all court proceedings. My wonderful, wise sister cousin Athena said that I had a point. I don't get to have a point very often. I'm enjoying this. I had a point that we, as the gods of this place, do not deserve to be punished along with the inmates. Jailers are not sentenced to prison just because that is their place of work. And the fact that our place of work happens to be also our abode of living is an unfortunate consequence, but does not mean that we should fall under the same rules as the inmates. So they gave us 2 actors to borrow. And this is really good, and they're letting us use new scripts. That means we have a whole world of theatre opening up to us. A whole world of theatre. Once we finish with Shakespeare, we'll be moving out into all sorts of other things. I have a big pile of scripts that the demons are busily photocopying because we need to return the originals and they need working scripts. And there are so many names I've never heard of before. People like Beckett and Congreve and Shaw and Wilde. People whose names I've never heard of, but apparently they're really good. They've been hoarding them upstairs. Plus, all the old ones came back. You know, like Euripides. Oh, and Aristophanes. All of them came back down. And Seneca. A wonderful, wonderful world of plays. Plays I'd never thought I'd see again, and plays I have never seen before. So we're going to be bringing you a whole new world of theatre once we finish Shakespeare at the end of this year. So, in the meantime, we have Othello. Now, the actors that we borrowed 2 actors, actually. They were very generous. We had 2, they volunteered. They both wanted to come down. So, the first actor who we had volunteer is a gentleman known as Noble Johnson. Apparently he was a very big film actor. And he started the first African-American independent film production that ran for about 4 years, making films for African-American people with African-American actors in roles that were not the typical roles that he played. He financed it through his film career, but not playing the savages and the savages, which were the only roles allowed by Hollywood at the time. So he's really fascinating. He is going to be our Othello. The other person who volunteered is Cleavon Little, who I think people know as the Black Sheriff from Blazing Saddles. And he came down. He's going to play Iago. So that changes it very much how you read this play. Very, very much. Especially since the Milwaukee family plays, oh my goodness. They were so upset. You've never seen anything like it. Just awful, awful. They were so upset and so angry. It was like double punishment for them. I've never been so pleased at an idea of mine of how to punish these inmates. So anyway, we have a very interesting version of Othello to play. So this is a play. I even though it is very interesting, I can't say I really love this play. I actually can't. I find this a very difficult play. It's part of the reason why we've left it so long. I mean, apart from the obvious racism that comes with the Milwaukee family players, I have problems. And we'll get to those problems as we go. So Othello opens in Venice. Iago and Rodrigo are talking. Iago has been overlooked by Othello for promotion. Othello is a general in the employ of the Venetian government. He's really a mercenary. So he has been very, very big in fighting Turks. So he's very, very good at doing this. But Rodrigo is in love with Desdemona and has been turned aside by her father already. And he is with Iago, and they are going to Desdemona's father's house, Birbanto. Don't worry, he disappears pretty quick. To tell him that Othello is, at this moment, marrying his daughter. And so they call out all manner of nasty things, nasty racist things, to describe Othello, and call Brabantio out of his house to go and take men and go after him. Now, Othello, it turns out, has just married Desdemona, and before he and Desdemona can enjoy their wedding night together, Cassio comes and tells that the Duke has been searching for him because the Turks are again threatening Venetian interests abroad, and they need him to go and deal with this. Brabantio also challenges Othello. He comes and challenges Othello, and they all go to the Duke. The Duke is obviously quite interested in the war stuff and not particularly interested in this little domestic skiffle thing. And he says, okay, well, Brabantio says that Othello has used witchcraft to get his daughter, and Othello says, no, I told her stories, and the Duke says, oh, no, it doesn't sound like he did anything wrong. Desdemona comes and she defends Othello's wooing of her. Brabantio is very, very upset because his daughter has gone and married a man that he wouldn't want her to marry because he's black. And so he goes, he's very pissy about this, but there's nothing he can do because nothing untoward has actually happened. The Duke is now like, okay, look, dude, now that you sorted your domestic stuff, we have Turks, problem, we need you to do what you do. Do what you do, man. Go fight Turks. And Othello says, oh, but I need somewhere for I want permission to bring, somewhere for my wife to stay, and Desdemona says, I'm not going back to my father's house, I want to go with my new husband. And the Duke's like, whatever makes you on that boat fast, do it. Don't care. Just you Turks fight. Don't care. Your domestic problems are yours. My God, I wish that was the end of the domestic problems. So, Othello enlists Iago's wife to look after his new wife, and they exit. Rodrigo is now utterly heartbroken because Desdemona is married to someone else, and he's like, right, that's it, I'm going to drown myself. And Iago's like, no, you idiot. You go and get money, put money in your purse. That sounds like a double entendre. This whole thing is insinuation and double entendres. Anyway, go put money in your purse and follow us to Cyprus, because she's going to get sick of the old dog and you'll have a chance at her then. Rodrigo goes, and Iago is like, okay, I'm going to mess with Othello in this. We don't know why. He's the most demonic character. He seems to be utterly motiveless. I mean, we've had great villains like Richard III, if you want to call him a villain, if you insist on calling him a villain. We have Cassio, who convinces Brutus to kill Caesar. We have all these, machinations that happen. But yet there is no one like Iago anywhere else. Iago is almost demonic in his completely ruthless but also reasonless desire to destroy. He's just a psychopath, really. He's not even, and he's not a fun psychopath like Richard. Richard could at least be a fun psycho. But Richard has very good reason to do everything that he does. He is defending the country as a king. Iago's doing nothing. Iago gains nothing by destroying everything. This is part of the problem I have with this play. Anyway, so everything moves then to Cyprus, and Desdemona, Iago, Cassio, everybody is in Cyprus waiting for the arrival of Othello, whose ship has got lost or has been caught in a storm. This is actually where the opera begins. That whole first bit in Venice is just chopped off, and it's the storm at sea, which is actually a really great place to start. But nevertheless, Iago watches as Cassio talks with Desdemona, and is very courteous and courtly towards her, and thinks, I can do something with this. Rodrigo is there being sort of hanging about as part of the camp followers. News comes, Othello lands safely, the Turks have been seen off, everything should be good. He now comes to Cyprus, which is currently under the command of Montano, but Othello is now going to become governor of Cyprus. So Othello greets his wife warmly. They go off. They're going to go and enjoy themselves because their wedding night was interrupted and they haven't seen each other since then. So now they can go off and have their wedding night, and Othello declares a holiday. So until 11 p.m. so his troops can enjoy themselves. Iago comes and talks with Cassio. He has talked to Rodrigo and told Rodrigo, look, pick a fight with Cassio, and hopefully that will get him. If you pick a fight with him, he'll get dismissed for brawling. To doubly make this certain, he goes and gets Cassio drunk, because Cassio is a two-pot screamer. He doesn't hold his liquor well, and he manages to get into a brawl that involves not only Rodrigo but Montano, and Montano is injured. So when Othello comes out, and he's like, what's going on here? Who started this? And Iago is, I wouldn't say anything that would implicate Michael Cassio did it. Michael Cassio. So Cassio is dismissed. Having been dismissed, Cassio is, my honor, my reputation. I have someone to introduce you to. My reputation, my reputation. And Iago says, well, the way that you get your place back is go to our general's general, which is Desdemona. And then, of course, Iago's plan is to make this innocent thing look very, very guilty. There are not a lot of stakes in this. It's a problem. It's domestic. There's no subplots either. This is just going to rip. We're just going to rip through this anyway. Michael Cassio comes to sue for his place back with Othello. He speaks to Emilia to get to be able to speak to Desdemona. He speaks to Desdemona. She is like, oh, of course I can help you. I'll talk to my husband. And Iago, in the meantime, is like, hey, Othello, is that Michael Cassio talking to your wife and nicking off it really guilty? Iago never says anything outright. It's all insinuation. It's all insinuation. Keep that in mind. Othello goes and talks to his wife. His wife is like, oh, dear, it's terrible. Your lieutenant is so sorry that he did this, and he'd very much like his job back. And Othello is quite amenable to this to start with, and she withdraws, and then Iago starts asking about how well Othello knows Cassio, and how well, whether Cassio knew about the courtship between Othello and Desdemona, and he starts asking little innocent questions, and Othello is sort of dismissing this, but they're already playing on his insecurities. Basically, this is the story of an insecure man who goes and gives in to those insecurities. No dead kings, no empires, no stupid dividing of kingdoms, no, let's murder the king. No, it's just, ooh, maybe my wife is having an affair. This is not make of a tragedy. There is no world order set out of order. Unless your world order set out of order is a white woman married to a black man, in which case, oh boy, not good. So Iago plays on Othello's insecurities, and Othello says, well, I'd want some proof, actual proof, not just some stupid dream, although he's naive enough to think that a dream might mean reality. And it's like, are you kidding me? I had a dream that I was feeding cherries to Mr. Data. Does that mean anything? No. Oh, seriously, last night, that's what I had a dream about. No. It means nothing. It's stupid rubbish in your head sorting itself out. It's certainly not a confession of guilt. Please. Anyway, Desdemona comes in to say, people are waiting for him for dinner, and he complains of a headache, and she puts her handkerchief around his head, and he seems calmed by this, and they leave off, but she has dropped the handkerchief. And Emilia, seeing the handkerchief and knowing that her husband has been begging her to steal this, picks it up. She picks it up, and then she gives it to Iago. And she gives it to Iago because it'll make him happy, because she loves her husband, because he's a bully. We don't know exactly. Depends on the production. Sometimes he's a bully. Sometimes he's a very disturbed little man who has problems. So she gives it to him. Next, when Othello comes back, Iago is like, oh, now I have the handkerchief. I'm going to use this to give tangible proof of what is going on. And so this is all one scene. This is one very large scene. And by the end of the scene, Iago has convinced Othello that that his wife has been unfaithful with Cassio. He will find proof because he has seen Cassio with the handkerchief, which, you know, is apparently really important. It's just a MacGuffin, but it's really important to Othello. And by the end of the scene, Othello is like, right, you kill Cassio and I will kill my wife. This isn't a tragedy. It is tragic. It is terrible, but it is not a tragedy in terms of a classical tragedy. I don't really like this play. It doesn't. I'm going to keep going. So they're going to do this. They've agreed we're going to do this. So having decided to kill his wife, and it's like from this point on, it's like there's no reasoning with him. It's like he's an insecure person who's just decided that he's going to let his insecurities win. So anyway, again he meets with Desdemona and he asks, where is the handkerchief? And she says, oh, I don't have it on me, because she has dropped it and she's not sure where it is. Because, you know, her maidservant nicked it and gave it to her husband. So she says, she lies and says, I don't have it. She could have just said, I lost it. I'm really sorry, but is it that important? And he goes and tells their story about how important this handkerchief is and how it's a symbol of their love. And if she loses it or gives it to someone else, then it's like game over. And then she's like, oh shit, I can't say I lost it now. But, you know, I mean, and then, not a bright girl. She then goes and asks about Cassio again, because Iago has said, you know, like, don't give Cassio back his job yet straight away, because if you will find out how faithful your wife is whether she keeps pressing Cassio. And you're sitting there in the audience and you're like, shut up about Cassio. Shut up about Cassio. But she doesn't. And he gets really pissy and leaves. And she's like, oh gosh, our first fight. And Iago and Cassio appear. And Iago promises to go and find out what's wrong with Othello. And Emilia and Desdemona leave. Cassio is there and he has the handkerchief and he gives this to his mistress Bianca. And he says, oh, please, I found this. I like the pattern. Can you make me one? And so she's going to do that. And will I see you tonight? Blah, 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 blah. Boring little domestic stuff. Next, we see Iago has then found Othello, and he tells Othello that Cassio has admitted to sleeping with his wife. Othello then has a fit or a stroke or something, but he collapses. And Cassio comes in and says, oh, is the general okay? Oh, no, it's an epileptic fit. He's fine. He'll be right. What's going on with you? Meanwhile, Othello's like on the floor. But he'll be fine. You go and I'll come back in a minute because I'll see to the general and then I have to have words with you. And so he gets Othello up, and Othello is like, you know, just had a fit, but he's not really in a great position to do anything. And anyway, Iago just shoves him aside somewhere hidden so that when Cassio comes back, he can see them. He can't really hear them terribly well. And Iago starts to talk to Cassio about Bianca. And so Cassio starts talking about what a completely embarrassing thing she is, and that she's constantly asking about when she's going to marry her. He's going to marry her, and embarrassing him in front of the other Venetians. And it's just, she's a bit clingy. And Othello thinks that he's talking about his wife and is, really overwhelmed by this. Bianca comes in with a handkerchief screaming bloody murder because he's been seeing another woman. And this convinces Othello that, oh yes, he has been messing about with my wife, and then he's given my handkerchief to a slut. This is too much to bear. Cassio then leaves, and Iago's like, did you see that? Did you see all of that? And Othello's like, yes, we're going to kill him tonight. So he's well in. He's well in based on nothing. Iago never once has said, your wife slept with Cassio. It's all insinuation. It's all manipulation. And it's all... You know what it seems like most of all? It seems like a witch trial, that once it's got out of control, people will believe anything, that I saw so-and-so with the devil. Well, I saw so-and-so with your wife, or I saw this with your wife. And it's just taken on this mind of its own in Othello's head. So now a deputation comes from Venice to say that now that the wars have finished, we don't need you to be governor anymore. We want Michael Cassio to be governor, and you can be recalled to Venice. And Desdemona's like, yay, we can go back home to Venice. And Othello is, because things are going on in his head that have nothing to do with anything that anybody has actually said out loud, he then hits her in front of Ludovico and Gratiano and everybody else, and everybody is absolutely appalled. And Ludovico says, apologize to her. The lady's crying. Don't dismiss her like that. Don't hit her and then send her off like a dog. No one in Venice would believe this. This is appalling. And Othello doesn't really respond well with this. They're shocked, but he takes Emilia and drags her off after Desdemona. He then quizzes Emilia, have you seen my wife with anyone? And she's like, no. What on earth are you on about? She has never done anything, you crazy thing. She's really not impressed by any of this. She's like, what on earth are you thinking? She's been a model little wifey to you, you big palooka. So anyway, then he tells her to go bring Desdemona in, and then he quizzes Desdemona, and Desdemona is like, what am I supposed to say about stuff that's in your head? She doesn't say that. You wish to God she would. It's like, what are you accusing me of? She has no idea what she's being accused of. What did I do? What did I do? What is in your head, man? What is in your head? Of course, if it was me, I'd be like, no, dude, you hit me. Boundary. Goodbye. I'm going back to Venice. Hello, uncle. Can you give me a lift back to Venice? He hit me. There'd be no, oh, my dear, what possible thing could I have been accused of? I'd say I didn't do anything. It's like, you hit me. I'm going. No more conversation. You hit me. But that's me. That's me. Anyway, so she has no idea, and then he calls her whore and leaves, and Emilia and Iago come in, and she's like, what on earth how could I possibly be called whore? She can barely even say it. She's absolutely horrified, and Iago and Emilia try to comfort her. It's like, Iago, you are such a duplicitous bastard. You know, I mean, but obviously he doesn't want to get caught out at this, and he's in front of his wife, and things are a bit out of control. Iago is now telling Rodrigo, who is like, you have spent my money, I want my jewels back, I'm gonna go home. This has been you have wasted everything of my fortune. I'm just gonna go home now, because this is humiliating at this point. And Iago's like, no, the deputation from Venice, I was going to say Vienna. No, the deputation from Venice is going to put Cassio in Othello's place and send Othello and Desdemona off somewhere else. He doesn't say they're going back to Venice, because if they're going back to Venice, he wouldn't have been able to convince Rodrigo of this. So what you have to do is make it so that they can't put Cassio in Othello's place. How? Do I have to think of everything? Kill him! Kill him! Oh. And Rodrigo the dupe decides, okay, I think I can do this. I can't do this. I think I can. Okay, I will do this. I will do this. And so he lays in wait for Cassio. Desdemona and Emilia talk about whether or not, like, what has actually been happening, and that whether or not Emilia would break her marriage vows for all the world. And Emilia's like, the world is a big thing, lovey. Yes, I would, to make my husband king of that. Yes. Now that would be an interesting one. She's a much more interesting. She's very pragmatic, and Emilia, Desdemona is like, oh no, I couldn't possibly do that. Which is like, well, that's very virtuous, but it's not getting you anywhere good. He lays in wait for Cassio, and when Cassio comes, he fights with Cassio and is injured. Iago is with him, and he injures Cassio. The noise wakes up Ludvico and Gratiano, who call for light, and they all call, and they see that Cassio is still alive, and Iago kills Rodrigo before he can say anything. Poor Rodrigo. I think Rodrigo's the real victim of this. What a dope. He's just like, he's terrible. He's in a terrible state. He got caught up in somebody else's mess. Okay, it was his own stupid fault, but he still got caught up in someone's mess. He didn't really deserve to die like that in a brawl, having been humiliated multiple times. I mean, so far he gets humiliated multiple times and beaten up twice and then murdered. Yeah, poor bastard. Anyway, had Ludvico and Gratiano not been there, Iago probably would have killed Cassio too, because he's got to get rid of Cassio, because Cassio can back up Desdemona's story. But he can't, because Ludvico and Gratiano are there and they carry Cassio off to be treated. Desdemona is asleep in her bed, and Othello comes in, and he's decided, okay, I'm going to do this, and it's going to be fine. And it's horrible. It's really horrible. I mean, she wakes up and she's frightened, and she wants to know what's going on, and there is nothing that she can say, and he says Cassio's dead, and it's like, it's all stuff in his head. There is literally nothing she can say to counter the madness in his head, because he's decided that she's bad, and therefore, and nothing, there is not a single thing she can say, and the whole, I love you, therefore I'm going to kill you, is like, ugh. And so then he strangles her, or smothers her, depending on, It doesn't matter. It's the same sordid, horrible, disgusting thing that has happened to a woman every single week in the 21st century, in a modern country, more than every week. This is something that is constantly happening, is men getting crazy, insecure, stupid ideas in their head and then killing their partner. Usually at the end of a tragedy is some sort of catharsis. You know, I mean, I could quite happily watch the Andronici kill each other along with Tamora and her sons. I can have great fun watching her sons get eaten. By her. I can watch Richard kill his nephews and his brothers and anyone else who gets in his way. I have no problem when Hamlet and Claudius managed to wipe out the royal family in Denmark. I have no problem when Macbeth and Lady Macbeth get together and kill the king. Or even Banquo's children, or even Macduff's children. None of that is a problem. And you know you're in big trouble when the Macbeths have a better marriage than you do. But there's nothing gained. There's nothing public. This is just a squalid domestic murder. It is tragic. But there's no catharsis. It's just awful. Ignore the race. This is a man murdering his wife and not believing a word she says because he's gone bros before hoes and is willing to believe things a man has insinuated over direct disavowal, direct no, this didn't happen from his wife. So, you know, I mean, so I don't find this isn't a tragedy. This isn't Fates of Nations. This isn't the fall of a man who, from his ideals like Brutus. This is just ugly. That's the thing. It's ugly in a way that none of the other tragedies, not even Titus, is ugly like this. So Othello has killed his wife. Amelia comes in and calls the alarm that he has gone and killed that Othello has killed his wife, and everyone comes in and he tries to justify this, and it eventually comes out. Amelia is the one who speaks the truth, and it's like, Amelia, could you have said this like 5 minutes earlier? There would have been ample time when Desdemona went and said, oh, I dropped the handkerchief, and she could say, oh, no, I gave it to my husband. I found it and gave it to my husband. You know, I mean, yeah, she saved her own skin at the expense of that, but now she's going to sing like a songbird, which she does, to her credit, and tells everything, and people actually believe her, which is like she's in a room surrounded by men with knives, but she still says her piece and tells what happened. Iago has obviously been called, and he's with her, and he kills her. He kills his wife for telling. Are we terribly surprised that he does this? Not really. Not really. This doesn't have that same shock value. Cassio comes in and he's like, no, I never did. I found it. Blah, 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 blah. All in. It's like, oh, well, I went and gone screwed up. And all this time he's talking about honor. You know what? I can introduce to you a gentleman who would help both you, Othello, and Cassio with your two little problems. My great favorite. Falstaff. He'd teach you to hold your liquor, Cassio, and he would teach that honor is nothing but air. The whole time I'm listening to Othello talk about honor, I'm hearing Falstaff's speech about honor from Henry IV. Just his cynical, sarcastic speech about what use is honor? It's nothing. Well, what has your honor got you, Othello? It's got you a dead wife. And so in the face of this, he goes and he does stab Iago, but doesn't kill him because apparently you can't kill the devil. But it's like, dude, I'm sure you could have tried harder than that. And then he kills himself. And I was like, well, that was just crushingly depressing. That's not what I want out of a night at the theatre. I mean, look, the blinding of Gloucester is revolting. But I don't necessarily have to watch that, and I can do the rest of Lear. You know, I mean, if I psych myself up, I can do Titus, but this one just, and at least at the end of those, there's definitely catharsis. Lear learns that he's a stupid old man for going and dividing his kingdom. Titus discovers that, yes, the quality of mercy is something that is grossly missing from this play. To quote another play I'm not very fond of, but Portia has a point about the quality of mercy. She's misdirected, but he really could have done with the quality of mercy speech from someone. But there you go, there's Othello. I don't know what the catharsis is, that the mixed race couple are dead. If that was your problem at the beginning, that's not catharsis, that's just awful. I don't know I think the inherent problem with this play is I do not know what order has been put out of order, and therefore I do not know what order is put back into order with the deaths at the end. It is a problem, and it is why tragedy is supposed to be grand, not domestic. Domestic is just tragic. So anyway, that's Othello. And I got a victory out of it. But I can't say I enjoyed the play. I think I got the best possible production I could have got, but I didn't really enjoy it. So anyway, that's Othello for you. And I will be back next time with a comedy with Falstaff in it. So, bye-bye. If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website, www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other writing services to help with your writing.